Greetings from Mission Control Houston and welcome to Space Station Live. You're joining us here inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room, located at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, looking down at the Orbit 2 team as they man the consoles throughout this control room, monitoring all the systems on board the orbiting laboratory. Today's team is being led today by Flight Director Richard Jones, and joining him there at the Capcom position, serving as a communication link between all of our teams down here on the ground and the astronauts up in space, is David St. Jacques. And those astronauts up in space right now, the international crew of 6 members from nations across the globe of Expedition 36. They're being led by Russian cosmonaut Pavel Vinogradov. Joining him, 2 fellow Russians, Alexander Mazurkin and Fyodor Yurchikhin. We also currently have 2 NASA astronauts on board, Chris Cassidy and Karen Nyberg, both on their second space flights. Rounding out the crew from the European Space Agency, Italian Luca Parmitano. The crew starting up their work week this week. We'll start off with Commander Pavel Vinogradov, who is moving throughout the Russian segment today, taking some photographs of the air duct work throughout the Russian ventilation system and downlinking those to the ground. He'll also be the first of the 3 Russian cosmonauts to do a physical fitness evaluation. All 3 will be doing that during their day today. Meanwhile, on board, Alexander Mazurkin is on the hook to take some photos for an ongoing Russian Earth observations experiment, using the station as a vantage point to photograph and document numerous climate change hotspots throughout the globe. He'll also be inside of the Progress 50P vehicle, transferring some of the cargo from that over into the station. You can see the current makeup of the International Space Station right now. 2 crewed craft, the Soyuz 34 and 35s currently docked. Also 2 unmanned cargo crafts, the Progress 50, which Mazurkin will be inside of today, and also the European ATV-4 there docked all the way at the end of the aft section of the International Space Station. NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy is doing quite a bit of prep work for an upcoming spacewalk that he'll be taking part in. Cassidy, designated EV-1, and Luca Parmitano, designated EV-2, will be conducting 2 spacewalks over the next 2 weeks, the first of which on July 9th, noted EVA-22, and then on July 16th, just 1 week later, EVA-23, both of those scheduled to start at about 7:10 a.m. Central Time. The 2 astronauts will be heading outside. Again, you can see those will begin at 7:10 a.m. Central Time, 8:10 Eastern Time, and we'll be bringing you live coverage here on NASA TV. The astronauts will be heading outside to replace a space-to-ground communications receiver and also some wireless video equipment, along with routing a few cables and power hooks for an upcoming Russian multipurpose laboratory module. So Cassidy today doing some onboard training for the SAFER, or the Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue, sort of the emergency jetpack that these astronauts have attached to their spacesuits during spacewalks, and also doing the enhanced caution and warning system onboard training. Aside from that, he'll be unstowing some hardware from that airlock that won't be needed for the upcoming spacewalk, and preparing the Quest airlock to support all of those EVA operations. Moving on, Fyodor Yurchikhin over in the Russian segment doing some maintenance on some storage batteries. He's also doing some post-spacewalk reconfigurations on the Zvezda module and also the docking compartment 1, known as Pirs, where the Russian EVA-33 took place out of back on Monday, June 24th. That was a 6.5-hour spacewalk from Yurchikhin and Mazurkin, who were outside installing a number of cable clamps, handrails, and testing some rendezvous equipment, also for that upcoming Russian laboratory module scheduled to launch a little bit later this year. Meanwhile, Luca Parmitano changing out the recycle tank and the brine filter inside of the Regenerative Environmental Control and Life Support System. He'll also be working on that onboard training, doing the SAFER and the EWCS, or the Enhanced Caution and Warning System training, as he continues to prepare for that spacewalk coming up next week. Aside from that, he was also working with the Melfi, or the -80-degree laboratory freezer, a little bit later today, inserting a few ice bricks. And then our final Expedition 36 crew member, NASA astronaut Karen Nyberg, is working to set up the NanoRacks payloads. She's doing a few hardware installation items and also activating a camera setup. Aside from that, she'll be cutting and replacing a few cables located inside of the small payload rack.